Hello, hello, hello. Jordan Chariton, live Status Coup, Monday, May 22nd, in the United Corporations of America. I hope everybody had a good weekend. We had a fun time on the members call on Friday night. I had another glass of whiskey after the members call. Boy, 36 years old. You can't really drink 2 glasses of whiskey and feel okay the next day. I'll tell you. It's too bad how metabolism works in old age. But we have quite a bit to get to today. A little bit later, we're going to have an update. Obviously, we've been covering and I think leading on a lot of different environmental stories of calamity, corruption, but specifically on Kalamazoo. Our reporting in Kalamazoo recently on a multi-billion-dollar toxic plant helped spark action. And there's new developments now in that story because today the multi-billion-dollar toxic paper mill, Graphic Packaging, issued objections to a lawsuit. Wait till you see their objections. Ugh. Just when you think there is no rock bottom for corporate America, we find rock bottom. But smash that like button, share this live stream. The more people that press like, the more people that will see this. I will be promoting throughout the program. We do have a pretty big story, I would say, dropping tomorrow. We're going to publish it in the morning. So make sure you're subscribed to our Substack, which you could subscribe to for free at statuscoup.substack.com because it's going to be released probably tomorrow morning via Substack, which you'll get through our email. This is not necessarily the big story we've been working on. That's going to take a bit. That one that we've been working on is about the East Palestine, really the nitty gritty of the derailment, the so-called control burn. That one, Lewis and I are still working on. Lewis will be live with me tomorrow. But this one, kind of like an appetizer to that one, I guess is the best way to describe it. Some people have said to me, well, Jordan, you guys need to cover other stuff. All you've been doing is East Palestine and Kalamazoo and Flint. Like I said on the members call, obviously, we do cover politics, but I don't particularly feel there's anything politics oriented right now that's more important than a mini Chernobyl that detonated over Ohio and Pennsylvania a couple months ago that the residents have been completely lied to about, that residents are continuing to get sicker and sicker and sicker. I don't know. Call me naive. Call me stubborn. I think that should be the lead story and we have more developments on it every day. We have more developments on it. And Lewis has done great reporting. I could cover Marianne Williamson, RFK Jr., Biden and the debt ceiling. We will do some on the debt ceiling this week. Steve did a video on the debt ceiling last week for us, so go check that out. I think it was something explained in 5 minutes. But I personally think where we excel is this investigative and on-the-ground reporting on environmental corruption, environmental calamity, the poisoning of people in the U.S. So we're going to keep at it, and we'll try to mix in other stuff too. But that's the deal for now. So again, smash the like button, share this live stream so more people can see it. Really appreciate it. Let's first start. And as a reminder, we will be releasing that story tomorrow. So definitely stay tuned for that. What am I? Also, I'll promote this throughout the stream, but we are making progress. Our goal for this month is to gain 100 paid members. Right now, we're at 77. So we're definitely making progress with how much longer we have in this month. We got a little over a week left. So we got to get 23 more paid members. I'm hoping today we can get a couple more to keep trucking along. This really helps. Colin, come on for a sec. Actually, no. I want to, once we build up the audience, I want to share the nauseating news of our expenditure today that I do have heartburn about. We spent a lot of money today for good reason. All right. So, we're so busy all the time trying to cover new developments in the news that a lot of times we just post clips from our on-the-ground reporting, but don't really react to them. So I want to play some of the on-the-ground reporting from Lewis in East Palestine, also me in Kalamazoo. Jordan, can you please show up for work more often? I hope that's a joke. I will slap you through this internet. All I do is work. Ask my wife. But I want to play this clip. This is from an interview Lewis recently did in East Palestine. We posted it on Twitter today, so make sure you're following us on Twitter and retweet our tweets. We actually have a Twitter DM group so that when we post our tweets on Status Coup, we can get retweets right away. So if you're a new subscriber, if you're a new member and you want to join our Twitter DM group, the purpose is just send out our tweets and get mass retweets right away. You could definitely email us if you want to be added to our Twitter DM group. That's info@statuscoup.com if you want to be added. But I want to play this clip. This is from Lewis's interview with Stella and Darren Gamble. Apologies for those that saw it. It was over the weekend. But I thought it was so powerful and so enraging, really, that I want to play it in full. It's about 5 minutes, and then we'll react to it after. Remember, smash the like button. Super chats are welcome. A little bit later in the show, we'll be having a guest on Kalamazoo because, as I said, the toxic paper mill that I've recently exposed, Graphic Packaging, just issued objections to a lawsuit against them, and the objections are about as objectionable as most of the grifters all over YouTube these days. But let's start with this clip.
And I tell people all the time, the fact that Norfolk Southern, that our governor had Norfolk Southern set up a fund for future illness. Now, again, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out what that means. Mm-hmm. That means that it's for future illness, so therefore, there's gonna be,
right.
You know, I'm like, I tell people that, you know, when they tell me, oh, you're making this up. What about that? Right. You know, why do you think that fund was set up? I just don't get. I mean, I think that a lot of it is because people don't want to look, like you said. Why don't they just look? Mm-hmm. You know, I Googled EPA and lies, and 7 pages came up. And I tell people that all the time. You know, Google it. If you don't look and you don't see, then you can go ahead and believe what you want to believe. And I think that's a lot of what it is. People want to believe everything's fine. And now East Palestine has all this money, and we're going to put up some pretty little red curtains downtown, and we're going to plant some flowers and build this community center or whatever. Yeah. And it's going to be this perfect little Stepford town. Right. You know?
But to your point, I mean, the scary thing with all of this is, you know, health symptoms right now are scary, yes. But vinyl chloride is a carcinogen. The byproducts of vinyl chloride, like, these things cause cancer. That's not speculation. Right. That's reality. You know, I hope that, you know, that isn't going to be the case for a lot of you folks, and that you were able to get out in time. But only time will tell. But that's the harsh, scary reality of this, is that these chemicals cause cancer.
What about all the kids in town?
Right.
You know, all the ones that I told this when I talked to Jordan on one of my first interviews. Mm-hmm. You know, they were riding their bikes and pushing their baby strollers around containers of those contaminated socks that they used to suck up chemicals. They were riding their bikes and getting sprayed with the water that was shooting up out of the creeks. They're still sitting in school. Right. They're still playing in those creeks. Right. You know, to me, it is so overwhelmingly unbelievable. I get so stressed just thinking, you know, it's one thing, you're a full-grown adult. If you want to go down and play in the creek, then by all means you go. Right. But to see not just one kid, not just 2 kids, the schools are full. You know, they're all walking home. They're all over at the park playing. Everybody's all hunky-dory. Right. And what's going to happen when they find out that it is in fact contaminated, that there are toxins there? They act like this is this was the biggest catastrophic disaster in the history of the United States, and there's people in town that act like, oh, well, there was a magic fairy that cleaned it all up in how long were we evacuated the first time? 48 hours. Right. And everything's safe.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. I want to ask you, Darren, too, actually. I remember the last time we talked, you mentioned, and a lot of folks share a lot of these concerns, too, with, keeping animals and having a garden and whatnot. I remember, I think you said you had rabbits.
Yes.
I guess, are you still having concerns with that, or what's the status on...
Well, I still have the rabbits, but, I've been feeding them bottled water, and I get all the food at the feed mill, so it's not like they're out eating the grass.
Right.
But
Right, you get
squirrels. But still, I started raising the rabbits to eat them. I don't think I'd want to eat any of them rabbits now.
Right.
It's like everything else, the uncertainty. And I'm sure somebody knows the answer, but it's kind of like COVID. We only know what they're telling us.
Right.
So, and which is fortunately isn't very much, and about half of it's true, So But I've been going home and working and cutting grass and stuff, and raking leaves. I can definitely tell when I've been to town. I mean, not that I get violently ill, but it's something's not right, and it's like. Used to go to a motel for a little break. Now my going home's my break, and it's terrible. I don't want to live here. I put my whole life in my house. That's where I want to stay. But with her getting sick, it's not an option now. And they keep saying it's going to be okay, but it's like I said, it's been 3 months, and it's as bad now as it's ever been. So I just don't know what's going to happen.
No, it's
as bad now as it's ever been. And as a reminder, Stella, who has kids in East Palestine, well, Stella and Darren have kids in East Palestine, grandkids. They lived very close to where the derailment and control burn was. Air quotes on the control burn. They have been sick. Stella has been sick. They temporarily relocated since the derailment. They're feeling better when they're out of town, but when they go back into town, which they have to from time to time, they're instantly feeling sick again. That is why we keep covering this, because it's not like something that happened a few months ago. As Bob Bocock, who's Aaron Brockovich's partner, said, and he's a water expert, also has expertise air and soil. He said they are being recontaminated every day. So, of course, the corporate mainstream media cannot cover something for more than 3 days. If it's a mass shooting, maybe for a week or 2 weeks. But I don't know. Maybe I'm in the twilight zone. I think if Americans are being contaminated over and over again, which, by the way, the urine testing that we have been reported, I just got over the weekend another resident telling me their urine tested positive for elevated levels of vinyl chloride. I believe I got to write it down on a list to make sure. I think that's number 8 that has contacted us. And these are just people who are getting tested, can't afford the testing because it's expensive, not fully covered by insurance. So that means if they are showing up on their urine with elevated levels of vinyl chloride, that means ongoing, not just acute during the detonation, ongoing exposure to vinyl chloride, which is linked to rare forms of liver cancer. You also have lung cancer. Brain tumors, reproductive issues in women, neurological issues. This is serious shit, folks. The combustion of vinyl chloride creates byproducts like dioxins. Little Beach, Missouri, that's what it was called. In 1983, they found dioxins all over Little Beach, Missouri, which was in the St. Louis area, evacuated it. Since has been deincorporated. It's a ghost town. Nobody lives there. I wonder why the EPA did not want to test for dioxins. And like I said, if you came to this live stream a little bit late, tomorrow, probably in the morning, we're dropping a pretty big story that we've been working on. I don't want to give it away, but needless to say, it will present some new information on the quote unquote controlled burn that we've been told about. That happened on February 6th. So definitely, if you're on the East Coast, think about 8 or 9 a.m. West Coast, you'll still be sleeping. You'll get it in your email. If you're a Substack member, you could sign up to our Substack for free. There are paid options too, but we also have a free option. Lewis will definitely be doing a video, and then Lewis and I will be talking about it tomorrow. I wish I could tell you it now, but I was still working on it, and we didn't want to rush it for today. But needless to say, I think this is extremely important because we're fighting against the current of YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and the what's trending now type of situation. But we need, as journalists and news consumers, to be able to distinguish what should be the leading stories in America. And if people, not just in East Palestine, but parts of Ohio, other parts of Pennsylvania, I've actually spoken with experts who have told me that based on the wind and weather patterns, it's likely that that plume went to West Virginia, parts of New York, possibly even Canada. Okay. So that's why we're sticking on it, not because like, oh, we just have nothing else to cover. I don't see, yeah, we could cover day-to-day politics. That's being covered by a lot of other channels. We'll get more into politics as 2024 approaches. But right now, I don't know anyone that's keeping this in the news. There's only a couple other channels, honestly. And I want to point out a few things that Stella and Darren said that I wrote down. They pointed out, and by the way, smash that like button. And as a reminder, we are very, very close to our goal for May. Right now, we've gained 77 paid members. Let me actually give a shout out because a couple of you signed up today. Obviously, by the meter, our goal is 100 for the month, which would be awesome. So shout out to new members who signed up today. Lenny, Gregory, James, Manuel signed up. Yesterday, Kira signed up. So that's 5 members today and yesterday. They're signing up at $5 a month, $10 a month. We got some $20 a month. Please, please, please help us continue this reporting. Very, very important. In a little bit, I'll bring Colin on so we could both, me in a nauseating manner, tell you what we spent $15,000 on today. So that's why we're trying to add paid membership. So sign up, statuscoup.com/join. But what Stella said, Norfolk Southern is creating a fund for future illness. That means it's for future illness. Sounds kind of self-evident, right? But Norfolk Southern has created a fund for future illness. Well, why would they be creating a fund for future illness unless there's not an expectation that, unfortunately, we're going to see people with cancer and other illnesses, some that could be treated, some that are going to be terminal due to a chemical shower that rained over them and is still contaminating them. The other thing she said that I thought was interesting, I Googled EPA and lies and 7 pages came up. I could tell you just from my reporting in Flint, I could write 10 pages of EPA and state of Michigan lies. So that's not a surprise. Also, the biggest catastrophic disaster in the history of the United States. Some people might take issue with this. I saw some folks on Twitter saying this wasn't the biggest catastrophic whatever. I think if you look at it as the biggest environmental catastrophic disaster, because obviously you could, Pearl Harbor, 9/11, other instances you could argue. But in terms of a biggest environmental disaster on American soil, if you are living in East Palestine, I can't knock you for feeling that way. If you are living in Pennsylvania, that Pennsylvania residents have not gotten the attention of the East Palestine residents. But if you're living in Pennsylvania, well, you saw the plume from your backyard. You smelled the plume from your backyard. Who are we to tell them, I don't know if it's the biggest? Well, if a chemical shower rained over you and you are not, it's not that you were sick in the beginning, but now you're kind of getting better. Listen, they had a meeting last week. They're called the Unity Council for East Palestine. That is a group that is formed with residents from East Palestine, and they made demands. I don't know the day. It was either Monday or Tuesday of last week. I spoke with residents. Several of them have fortunately been able to temporarily relocate and aren't really coming to town much because their houses still smell like a gas station. Just being in this meeting in East Palestine, I believe it was for 2 hours, I spoke with residents that say they were getting nosebleeds coming back. Spoke with residents whose eyes were burning, horrific headaches. This is people who left town and are now back. And for the people in town, I speak with residents who are getting it every day, symptoms. So the EPA could say whatever it wants in terms of, well, our air and soil and our air and soil and water testing is coming up roses. I listened to Erin Brockovich when she says trust the residents. The EPA said a lot of things when it came to Flint. They lied. The EPA and others have said a lot of things when it comes to Kalamazoo, which we're going to get into a little bit later. They're lying. So I'm not one of these people who are saying don't believe anything the government ever tells you. But you got to be skeptical. You have to be skeptical, particularly when there's a multi-billion-dollar corporation involved, which is Norfolk Southern. Colin, did I give other East Palestine clips? I think I did. Did I?
Not that I'm aware of.
Let me see in here what we have. There's something else I wanted to respond to. Hold on. Well, you know what? I might as well play this now because it has a bunch of East Palestine clips because it kind of mixes in with the promo. So Colin put together a beautiful, made me tear up, a little promo showing you the work we've been doing over the last few months, Lewis and I, in East Palestine, in Flint, in Kalamazoo. And obviously this has been for promotional purposes to kind of, grow our membership and audience. But it also shows you the desperation of these poisoned people, whether it's for a long time in Flint or less of a time in East Palestine, Kalamazoo, that the media abandons them after initial coverage, which is a big reason why we have the status quo in this country, which is why we named this Status Coup. But I want you to watch this. I'm very proud of it. If you're not yet a Status Coup member, hopefully this will convince you to sign up. We'll respond on the back end.
Yeah, we appreciate your support, appreciate you supporting this guy and the few people that actually still care about us.
And you guys are covering it and you wouldn't have known because all the media leaves and like all of these places that you've mentioned are still the same.
But a lot of them have no real clue of what is reality for folks like you in these places. And I think that's lost in a lot of places.
Can
so if
I
you're
say
able...
something about that too?
Yeah.
I just want to say, please, if you were in this situation, you would want Jordan, you would want Lewis down here covering your story because the mainstream media has bailed on us. Unless there's awareness. I mean, we have sick children. I have sick family members. Like, to believe this would go on in the United States of America, I would have never believed it. This could happen in your community tomorrow. And trust me, you're going to want someone like Lewis down here. And I also feel like the reason why I feel so dedicated to Status Coup is because, one, you guys are dedicated to us. And number two, you don't try to control our narrative. I would have so many news stations call, well, I'm doing a story. I want to do a story on someone who had a positive experience at the CDC clinic. Well, good luck finding them because guess what? There's no positive experiences. So the fact that you are coming into town and you're letting us sit here and talk and not telling us what we're allowed to say and not allowed to say and edit us, we appreciate that more than you know, Lewis.
Just really want to thank you guys enough. And look, I'm going to do the begging for money for these guys.
Yep.
So, these guys are the only ones right now that are keeping this in the spotlight. And not only us, Richmond, Kalamazoo, this stuff is happening all across the country. And if it's not for reporters and companies like Status Coup to keep the small people in the spotlight, nobody's ever going to get justice or answers. So please donate what you can, a couple bucks. I know you had a rough trip getting in here. I mean, he's the only one that's coming and doing this, and Jordan and everybody else. So thank you guys, and I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you for saying that. We appreciate it.
I definitely want to thank you guys for staying on this the way that you have, because the media, they have just packed up and left.
You guys and certain ones, the media is more or less left, besides a few, and you guys are our only hope. And I thank you. You thank me for having you come in. No, we thank you for coming in. They only will put out to the public what that media, like 27 News,
Yeah.
or 20, they'll only put out that little segment
Yeah.
of you saying one little thing that sticks up for the situation.
Right. Rather than actually like letting people talk and giving
Letting
their
it all
stories,
come
which I
out.
think is people want to hear what is it actually like.
I really think that if Jordan and Status Coup did not come down to Kalamazoo, this health study would still be delayed. I believe it's because you came down and you reported on the ground and you got sick yourself, and that probably raised a red flag too. Like, he doesn't even live here, Colin doesn't even live here, and they got sick too. Because I sent all of your videos to the health department. I sent all your videos to Eagle and everybody else, and that you continuously kept reporting it, like that you were there for a few days on the ground doing this. I believe that that's why the health consultation was released today, because of you. And so thank you for that. Even though it's not what we wanted, it was something that everyone's been waiting on or using an excuse of why they're not helping.
First of all, we both want to thank you for everything you've done. Like tirelessly been here and talking to residents and people. So thank you, first of all.
I appreciate that. Thanks for chatting with us again. And
thank you for coming.
Yeah, no.
Thank you. You guys have not forgotten about our town.
Yeah.
We owe you so much. They need to really start helping us.
Yeah.
Someone in this country should be able to help our town. You've did more for us than anyone.
I want to get my Kleenex out, then maybe some whiskey, because it's both hopeful and depressing. And yeah, I mean, listen, I wish we lived in a world. And by the way, shout out to new Status Coup member Trudy, just signed up during that. Thank you, Trudy. Signed up as a YouTube member, by the way. For you Status Coup members that missed the members call on Friday, it is archived, so you could watch it back. Colin, how do they watch it back? StatusCoupMember.com.
If you're a member, it just depends where you're at. If you're a Patreon member, it'll appear in the feed. I'll be doing it after the stream, so they'll be posted to Patreon feed. Member, you just go to, if you're on the old member site on StatusCoup.com, just go to the member section. If you're on the new member site, StatusCoupMember.com, same thing, member section will be posted there. And if you're a YouTube member, just look at the channel feed and it'll pop up there as well. So just wherever you're a member at, just look at whatever the member feed is and it'll pop up there.
And while you're on here, come back. What's that? Is that the most recent gorilla shirt? Colin only wears gorilla shirts and
Godzilla. Yeah. Yeah.
But listen, let's keep it real. We dropped over $15,000 today. Actually, the bank called me to make sure it wasn't fraud, to purchase a brand, it's a used Live View, but I think only like a year old. And it's the Live View 800. Colin, in a non-nerdy tech way, maybe you could explain to people what the Live View 800 is, why we needed it, and, why it's important for them to sign up and what it will allow us to do now.
Yeah, so by getting the Live View 800, we currently still have the LU 600. So that means we can now go on multiple trips simultaneously if we need to. Or, for example, say Lewis and I are in East Palestine covering the stuff there with the Live View, and suddenly a rally happens just on a Friday or something in New York that Jordan wants to go cover. We can now do that simultaneously. But the LU800 specifically, it'll make it so that we can go in much bigger crowded areas when we use it without any of that buffering connection, and just harder to get places essentially because of it. And also it future-proof some things like being able to, in the future, use multiple cameras for larger events or for interviews and stuff like that. The LU800 can do that, whereas the LU600 can't. So it's just both an upgrade as well as future-proofing, and also being able to do two things at once now.
Yes. So it was a lot of money. Technically, it exists in our bank, but it severely shrunk our bank. We might have to push the GoFundMe again, but right now we want to focus on getting those member signups. So please sign up. By the way, I am talking to somebody about larger funding, not a scumbag. And if we get it, I will disclose, who it's from. But it does help. It certainly helps if we're trying to get larger funding. It helps to show, hey, look at the stable base of paid members we have a month that is continually growing. Thank you, Trudy, and hopefully we get some more member signups. I want to also show. And by the way, to those saying, do we have that promo able to share? This is why YouTube and Twitter suck, because we posted this already on YouTube and we posted this on Twitter already. So you probably didn't see it because, so here's the tweet with that full promo video. So retweet it, share it. And Colin, if you could post the YouTube video, or I think you already did. Definitely share that, send it to your friends, convince them to sign up. Again, they could sign up for $5 a month. That's 16 cents a day. I want to play another clip, this shifting to Kalamazoo. We posted this over the weekend. There's a few clips. This is from an interview I did with a Kalamazoo resident. Obviously, the core of the story we've been covering in Kalamazoo is about this multi-billion-dollar toxic paper mill that is releasing volatile gases far exceeding the allowable health limits. I've spoken with residents. Their kids have died of severe asthma attacks, burning eyes, headaches, bad rates of asthma, COPD. But now, since the plant expanded, thanks to the governor, the Democratic governor who helped them expand, Gretchen Whitmer, it is now being smelt and felt in the white part of Kalamazoo. So I interviewed a resident there. Let's take a look at this.
Yeah, I want to reiterate, you're right, Jordan. This is not anywhere near as much of an issue on this side of town because prevailing winds push it away from here. But yeah, after the expansion, it's become a lot more noticeable. I would say that it was probably only about in the last year. So it took a little while after they got up and running with the full expansion before we started to notice it pretty regularly. And really since this last summer, it's been probably, I would say, 3 days a week or so where you can smell it, and probably usually it'll be about 1 day a week where you get a headache going outside. Or my wife is a little more sensitive. She'll get her lips will burn, and she's actually gotten some rash on her skin. But yeah, it's like that about once a week probably.
Do you notice it worse during the day, at night, certain weather?
The worst is in the morning. So I walk the dog first thing in the morning, and there are times when it'll be a couple days in a row I'll get a headache coming home from that, but it's really bad about once a week. But it's worst in the morning, and that's what I've heard from people who are on the north side as well, who I know say it's bad all the time, but that's really when it seems to peak, is in the late evening hours into the early morning.
And when you first discovered this, did your neighbors did they see it too? Talk about the community. Yeah. What has it been more widespread in the community? People have been talking, or what's been the response?
It's the strangest thing, Jordan. I guess because it's gone on for so long and people kind of got used to it, and then the expansion was just kind of added on top of what people were already used to, so it hasn't even clicked for most people. There's a handful, probably about 5 households in the neighborhood who regularly comment on it, either report it to the city or the state, and we communicate about it online to say, hey, how is it over on your end of the neighborhood today? Or when you dropped your kid off at school, was it really bad? So there's a small number of people, but I think more and more people are starting to recognize that this is not what people should live in. This isn't right.
Right. And talk about I know the black folks I've been talking to right next to the plant. Yeah. I mean, they're lucky if they even get a response from city officials. The mayor doesn't respond. City council doesn't respond. The state health department, when they've responded, have said, we came and did an investigation, which was basically a smell test, not with like air monitors, but just officials smelling.
They actually call it a sniff test.
A sniff test, and said everything's fine. But, I mean, the numbers are the numbers. Since 2015, almost 2,000 black babies under the age of 1. Almost 2,000 under the age of 1 black babies have died. That's 5 times the rate of white infants. You have people in that neighborhood with really high rates of asthma, COPD, people having stomach pains, nausea, headaches. So obviously it's not to anywhere near that degree here, but you have to wonder, they expanded in 2021. You started feeling symptoms last year. So I'm assuming the folks that know about it here are concerned, what is this doing to you short-term and long-term?
There's no doubt that it's connected. And you're right. So in terms of getting a response, the city does not respond. It doesn't matter. There's no way to get the city to respond. The state does. I have the person who does the sniff test. I have her phone number in my cell phone contacts. And just yesterday, when I was out walking the dog in the morning, I called her up and said, "Hey, it's bad again. What are you going to do?" She always calls back. She usually calls back to say, "Is it still bad? Do I have to come back?" She doesn't say, "Do I have to come back?" But is it still bad?
And she's with the health or the environmental department?
Environmental.
Okay.
Yeah, so they'll come do their sniff test and tell us that there's no smell or there's
same
no
environmental
smell.
department, by the way, that covered up the Flint water crisis. But I digress.
Yeah, but you're right, and she even she'll do her sniff test here, and then she'll tell me she drove over to the north side and did it there, and it's minimal, is what she'll say, which is just not reality. This is gaslighting of the highest order.
Well, first of all, as any chemist or expert that is looking at East Palestine right now can tell you, just because you don't smell something at all times of the day doesn't mean you're not breathing in toxic chemicals or toxicants, in this case gases. And if you smell it more at other parts of the day, it could be for a lot of reasons, weather or they're ratcheting up their emissions or whatever. But the fact that the environmental department is basically telling you it's fine if I don't smell it doesn't make sense just from an environmental perspective, because it could be dangerous whether you smell it or not.
And one of the things about this whole thing is that every year it's worse in the summer. When it's hotter, this smell travels and is more. You can detect it more. So, like I said, it's really about since last summer we've been able to detect it here. But even in the past, in the summertime, on a hot, still day, we get some strong effects of it here. So I'm really concerned about how it's going to affect, like, say, this summer. And, with climate change affecting all this hotter, weather, it's going to be even more of an issue.
You don't even need to wait till summer. It could be next May,
right? But if
spring.
we're getting it now like this, when it's usually much worse in the summer, I mean, 2 months from now, I have no idea what it's going to be like.
So that was David Banak. We have 2 other clips from that we'll play a little bit later, but I wanted to show that because, unfortunately, this is America. If you're black and watching, you probably agree. Hispanic, indigenous, I guess poor white. It might come down to, since this paper mill has expanded, they expanded so much of what they're releasing, the gases, that now it's spreading to the white part of town. It might come down to enough, I don't want to say wealthy, but better off white folks in Kalamazoo complaining that it starts to get some traction. And that interview was recorded, by the way, before the health study was released, that was released a week or so ago. And what he said is true. The city had been ignoring residents' complaints for years, and now the city is suddenly, it's a top priority. By the way, shout out new member while we aired that interview just signed up. Bruce just signed up. So that makes 79 new members this month. We are getting close, folks. We are getting close. Maybe I shot too low, Colin. Maybe I should have put it higher than 100 because it looks like we will hit 100. But keep signing up. StatusCoup.com says join. Welcome, Bruce. Appreciate you signing up. So I wanted to bring on Brandy again. We might as well put you on the payroll because we have you on every day. But we got to have you on because there's news, and you've been fighting the good fight. So you filed a lawsuit against Graphic Packaging. You've filed other lawsuits too. I'm going to try to get your lawyer on as well. But there's news today. Just give us the overview before we get into the actual document. What happened today?
So we've had
like, I assume the sunglasses are both fashionable, but also
to block the shade from Graphic Packaging I got today. Okay. So I'm just saying, like, I'm like so over them. But so we've had like mediation and stuff like this with Graphic Packaging, but we tried to submit the health study to the judge, and then Graphic Packaging tried to like get it dismissed or try to get it rejected because they said that the health study was irrelevant to our lawsuit, which is insane because the health study said that everybody is getting poisoned by Graphic Packaging. Like, come on, like it's crazy. They said that because DHHS is a separate agency than Eagle, that the judge shouldn't consider it. What that has nothing. Eagle actually was assisting on this MDHHS study as well.
So for non-Michiganders, basically Graphic Packaging, which is the paper mill that was found to have been releasing the Michigan health study said like 4 to 5 times the allowable limit of hydrogen sulfide. But there are days, as recently as last week, the allowable limit, and I put that in quotes because honestly it's bullshit, but the allowable limit for hydrogen sulfide set by the Michigan Health Department to be released from that plant is 1.4 parts per billion. Last week, they had it at 80 at certain parts of the week. That's a lot higher than 1.4. And somehow the Michigan Health Study averaged it out to that it's 4 times higher. They also, by their own admission, they only tested for the dozens of other volatile gases over 3 days in 3 years. So they only tested over 3 days for dozens of other gases for over 3 days, over 3 years, because this health study was delayed by 3 years. And they finally released it, I believe, due to our reporting that shamed them. But let's read some of this legal document because it's kind of laughable. They're saying that the health study that was just released exposing that they're poisoning the poor Black community is not relevant to your lawsuit about them poisoning the poor Black community. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Colin, if you could pull that up. This is Defendant Graphic Packaging International's response to plaintiff's notice. You are the plaintiff. The court should refuse to consider plaintiff's notice of supplemental authority because it is entirely irrelevant to Defendant Graphic Packaging International's pending motion to dismiss. GPI's motion to dismiss, filed pursuant to federal rule of court, blah, 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 seeks dismissal on 2 overarching grounds. Plaintiff's claims fail because they are barred by the applicable 3-year statute of limitations. And number 2, in any event, plaintiff's nuisance and negligence claims and requests for injunctive relief are deficiently pled and thus fail to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. The motion to dismiss is confined to purely legal arguments and relies on the pleadings as well as those records for which the court may take judicial notice. All right, before I move on, what fantasy statute of limitations are they talking about? I know there's a statute of limitations in Michigan for a lot of felonies like misconduct in office, neglect of duty, or things like that. I've never heard of a statute of limitations for poisoning people.
Right. There isn't. And what they're talking about too is, they said in another filing that they had in the past that, that because they've been polluting Kalamazoo for 100 years, we should have sued them 100 years ago. So like, that's what they're talking about when it comes to that. But the statute of limitations actually started when I did the FOIA request to even find out like what the odor was, where it was coming from, if it was toxic. It started in June of 2020. And so it's not even been 3 years yet. And every time they get a violation from Eagle, that also starts the statute of limitations over again. So they know that. It's just another delay tactic. And what really blows my mind is that they would release a press release after the health study comes out saying how much they care about their employees and the residents in the community, and they're a community partner, but they're sitting here filing, you know, motions to stall out the settlement to, you know, help people. And because they don't want this health study to make them pay more than they're liable for when it comes to property damage. Because at first we filed it as a negligence, nuisance, property, loss of property, loss of enjoyment of property lawsuit, because we didn't have the toxicology report at that time. We didn't have the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, so we didn't file for personal injury. We never kept personal injury off the table. I do have some more lawsuits with another lawyer that we're going to be filing against other governmental agencies and politicians that were involved in the cover up of the poisoning. But this is just, to me, it's just another delay tactic. They're just wasting their money by delaying things when they could, if they really cared about helping everyone, this is a way that they could have helped everyone, is through the class action lawsuit that we filed almost 3 years ago.
And I should have asked this in the beginning, but could you specify what your lawsuit, because you're the plaintiff, what is the lawsuit stating, and what are the damages you're seeking?
Well, we're seeking,
which might change because now the health study is out.
Right. We're not really, we just said more than 25,000, like when I think we filed it, but it was just like, it's not a specific amount because we were waiting on, you know, all this health information to come out. And at first it was just negligence, you know, because they had malfunctioning equipment leaking out this gases that they said, and an open air clarifier that they didn't cap that was still open. The gas leaks still aren't fixed. There's no filter. So it was kind of like saying, you know, because you didn't fix your shit, that's why everybody's dealing with this odor all the time, you know. And we mentioned the hydrogen sulfide monitoring and the gas studies that the city did in the lawsuit as well. I just had those, you know, combined to have a toxicologist review that, to show like if there was a health risk or whatever, because it didn't say that in the FOIA that it was a health risk. It just showed that there is gas studies done and that they were monitoring for hydrogen sulfide at the city wastewater plant.
Right. And I also think it's important. I just want to stress, because I know this, but you know it better than me. You know, it's a good thing they released this health study, but it's pretty incomplete. This plant is releasing dozens of more chemicals than hydrogen sulfide, and a toxicologist in 2020 found higher levels of other chemicals that the health department basically they tested for over 3 days. So honestly,
no, the EPA did. The EPA tested it. The health department didn't test anything. I begged the health department to do their own testing because I don't trust anybody that's involved in the cover up. So even when they went down for 3 days, they told me not to. The EPA told me not to tell anyone that they were coming down, because I begged them for a year to come down, because I was like, this is insane. I went door to door and everyone's sick. And so I begged them. They kept making excuses, like their mobile unit was here. They didn't have enough, you know, they didn't have enough people. It's the pandemic. I mean, every excuse in the book I heard. Finally, they come down for 3 days. And all of a sudden, everyone's telling me like the odor's not as bad, like everything. So I'm like, okay, so the EPA didn't want me to tip the residents off, because it seems to me they might have tipped off Graphic Packaging and the wastewater plant that they were coming down there for 3 days, because all of a sudden we don't see any smoke, we don't see any odor or anything like that when those 3.
Lost your audio for a minute.
I think they're can you hear me now?
Yeah,
I think their testing is shit. I think everybody's testing is shit. The city's monitors are always down. Oh, they're falling down and stuff like that. We'll go pick the shit up.
Or get monitors that don't fall down.
Right. Like that's your excuse for not having testing data for like 2 months. Oh, the monitor fell down. Go pick it up. If it's just that, like, I mean, what's the everything about this is just a scam.
I also want to read this part, which is just insane. Conversely, the plaintiff's notice of supplemental authority submits a study issued not by the Environmental Department, but by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The study has no relevance to the arguments made in Graphic Packaging's motion to dismiss. Plaintiffs do not even attempt to establish that the study is germane to the motion to dismiss, other than to state that it, quote, bears directly on the allegations and alleged injuries involved in the case. However, the study is not contained or alleged in the pleadings. All right, that's a bunch of legalese, but basically they're saying your lawsuit should be dismissed because it was the corrupt health department and not the corrupt environmental department that released the study.
Right. Even though, like I said, they were at all the meetings, and Eagle brought a drone in too that was used in the study. Like, they're just idiots. I feel like they just don't even know. They're just talking out of their ass. Their lawyers suck. Like, honestly.
Well, it's a multi-billion-dollar corporate conglomerate. So my guess is right now they're trying to figure out a way to avoid a bigger class action lawsuit with more residents. Because right now they're only dealing with you, which they can minimize. But
no, they're dealing with me and the whole community. This is a class action, so I'm the lead plaintiff. But there's like 300 people that signed up so far. I think maybe more. Okay. And so now that it's spread to the white neighborhoods, like you said, that's like, I mean, if you were to go and probably do like declarations for every single person that lives in the city of Kalamazoo at this time, since the expansion started in February of 2022, and Eagle allowed, even on the permit, it says Eagle is allowing graphic packaging to increase VOCs by 20%. Right. So just like them allowing them to increase VOCs, which cause cancer, is like insane to me. But I think that now that they know, like they saw the town hall too, like they're filing this right after that town hall, and how I went off and said, we're suing everybody too. Like, it's not just graphic packaging, and that everyone's saying shut graphic packaging down. Like, they know there's a lot more plaintiffs. If you were to have 77,000 plaintiffs, which is the population of Kalamazoo, it's a little bit more than whoever would sign up from our neighborhood. I mean, I'm sure once, more people would sign up later on, but.
Well, if more white folks from Kalamazoo happen to be watching, let's give you some more information. So like I said, we have some other clips from David. I want to get your response to some of these. If we could play the other David clips. Was the state not aware of all the complaints? We're not just talking like, oh, it smells bad, but it's not a safety problem. It's the smell is overwhelming, and you have kids dying of severe asthma attacks. Kids can't even play outside. The school near the plant, they don't even take them outside for recess. So, not that you have the governor on speed dial, but I have to assume she was aware, her administration was aware of this problem and approved it anyway.
There's no rational explanation for the state not being aware. Yeah, because by that point, graphic packaging had been fined several times. There had been a number of complaints filed. So, yes, they were aware. One of the issues here, though, is you're talking about Eagle, the Environmental Great Lakes and Energy agency for the state.
And just for you non-Michiganders, essentially, the environmental department was the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. It was very, 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 very active in covering up the Flint water crisis. And I think Whitmer came in and just to kind of put that to rest, change the name to Great Lakes something.
Yeah, they call it Eagle. They don't like when you call it Deagle, but it is the Department of Energy, Great Lakes, and Environment.
But it's the same department that knew there was a massive Legionnaires outbreak in Flint, which killed a lot of people, and stopped residents from being notified. Pushed the the health department not to notify the public. They were caught in Detroit, in Flint, manipulating water lead testing. So, it's not just a few rotten apples. The department has been caught time and time again doing the wrong thing.
And on that line, so you're tying it with the administration and issues of good governance, one of the kind of the consistent critiques of Whitmer during the early days of her administration was that she changed the name of the DEQ to Deagle, but didn't change the staff. Yeah, so she kept Snyder's people in charge of that agency, running the agency. And, when it comes down to it, oftentimes it's really the bureaucrats in the agency more than it is the politicians at the top who are the people who make the decisions. And so she kept all the people in there who were connected with the problems that Snyder had left us with.
Not only in that department, by the way. She kept a lot of Snyder's people in the health department and elsewhere. So... move forward, let's get into the nitty-gritty of Kalamazoo. because obviously the governor and the health and environmental department know about this, but the city knows about it. I had residents saying they can't get a response from the mayor, city council. What is the city getting from graphic packaging that they're just looking the other way as this plant? I don't think it's dramatic to say poisons the north side, and now is
the whole city.
Yeah.
I wish I could give you an answer to that, because the city's getting something. There has to be a reason.
And again, that was before this health study came out. And magically, after the health study came out, the city, they come out saying it's their top priority. We were focused on it the whole time. The mayor, also echoing these things. Interestingly enough, I have not seen a word from Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. I've reached
The mayor?
out to her.
Oh, no. Let's not give him a free pass. The mayor isn't echoing shit. He's sitting here and not doing shit for the city. And I feel like most of this is I think he's the one that told Aaron not to shush.
Oh no, I'm saying the mayor was pretending now that it's a priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything still. You have Foundation of Excellence dollars. Why are you helping people? You have a health study saying everyone needs to stay in the house because the air is so hazardous. This is emergency. You haven't even declared a public health emergency as the mayor. You haven't declared a public health emergency as the governor of Michigan. I seen the governor on doing a press conference for a gun rights bill that she enacted today. But did she say I have a public health emergency in Kalamazoo? No. So where is everybody?
A Democratic governor is doing a press conference for a gun rights bill, but she's not saying shit about Kalamazoo being poisoned. Maybe because her administration helped them expand 2 years ago, knowing that this was happening.
Well, I'm sure that's why. But like I said before, in another show I did with you, we all make mistakes. So she made a shitty ass mistake and she needs to fix it. Because ignoring it is even worse. She can get way more charges by knowing that there's a health consultation that came out saying that the air is hazardous and people need to stay in the house, and then she's still not doing her duties that she was elected to do. Ignoring this and not acting as the governor and doing your job as the governor or the attorney general right now, while and you have proof from your state health department that this is a health risk to your entire city, your 7th largest city in Michigan, you're being a shitty ass governor. You're not doing your job. So she needs to step up.
I'm sure M Live and the rest of the local media there is writing pieces, asking the governor for comment and asking where the governor is on this.
I know Brad from M Live has asked and she has had no response. I don't know. I think a few more have asked her, but I'm not sure how many people have asked for comment from her, but I haven't seen anything that says that people have asked and what her response is.
Gotcha. Let me play one more clip from David and get your response.
The state and the city are wrapping themselves around this idea that we can't do anything unless we have unequivocal scientific data. But how do they try to collect data? With a sniff test. So you can't have unequivocal scientific data that will allow you to take action if the way that you collect data is by a sniff test.
Well, I could show you some unequivocal data. This is, let me just pull it up, but this is since 2015, and it's Kalamazoo City statistics.
Yeah.
Since 2015, you have 1,950 black infants under the age of 1 that have died.
Yeah.
So almost 2,000 black children under the age of 1 have died, compared to 361 white children. 90% of black residents live in the north side near that plant. Mm-hmm. So they're not dying of the weather, and the asthma rates are through the chart.
Black infant mortality has long been a problem in the city. There's even been a couple of reports that were produced by the city where they recognize that. They don't identify what the problems are or any real solutions to it, but that's been an open problem. and like on the issue of failing to recognize the problem. I've been trying to work with people. Well, I've been working with people like Brandy and others to try to do something about this. And environmental health is one of the things that I'm most that is most important to me. And so that's why I got a seat on the Environmental Concerns Committee. Was this is a way to potentially get the city to listen and get the city to answer. So a couple of months ago, one of the things I started pushing was for the Environmental Concerns Committee to make an official recommendation to the city to hire a public health officer. Our city so each of these boards has a city commissioner who's a liaison who sits in on the meetings.
The bureaucracy is just making me dizzy.
Yeah. So our city liaison, the commissioner, when I was talking about this and making the case for it a couple months ago, the exact words she said was, "The city doesn't do health."
Clearly.
I mean, what more do you need?
The city does not do health. And by the way, just to clarify something, that statistic was in 2015, the 1,950 black babies under the age of 1 that died, but mysteriously, the data just disappeared from the county's website after that. So for all we know, Brandy, I mean, who the hell knows how many infants, black infants, are dying every year there? But that was for 2015, which is a lot, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the city actually had a public health officer. And I just think it's really a coincidence that after they did the 2009 gas study showing high levels of toxic chemicals in the air from the city wastewater plant graphic packaging, that in 2012, they repealed their public health officer. So that's why they don't deal with public health. They had a public health officer, and then they just decided, we don't need one anymore.
Before I play this next clip, and thank you for the super chats, I will read them at the end, so keep them coming. Please sign up. We're at 79 members now for the month. So 21 paid members away from hitting 100 new members. That's the only way we're going to go back to Kalamazoo, East Palestine, Flint, and beyond is you guys. So statuscoup.com/join. Join us for $5 to $10 a month. But what is incredible to me about this is the media. Let's talk about the national media for a second. Forget Michigan. The national media, I mean, Michigan Democrats are like, there's like a whole department to prop up the women of Michigan. I'm sorry, they happen to be women in leadership in Michigan. I'm fine with that if they're good at their job. And New York Times has done like disturbingly slobbering profiles on Gretchen Whitmer. Same thing with Washington Post. MSNBC has Dana Nessel, the Attorney General, who might want to do something about this, on to, about her fight against fascists. Meanwhile, she has screwed over Flint and I would say Kalamazoo. But the media coverage nationally of these Democratic governors, it's all like, yes, yes, queen, resistance. They're awesome, fighting the good fight against Republicans. I don't see any, other than I and very select others, I don't really see anyone asking, where are these people? You expect this from Republicans. We know the previous governor, Rick Snyder, probably didn't do anything about this because this is over a decade, this issue. But you kind of vote for Democrats. You would think they're told because they're better on the environment. It doesn't seem so to me.
It's different to me, like, than Flint, though, too. It's like, it's crazy to me when you bring up the difference between Republican and Democrat. To me, it's like, I hate that now it's like you were voting for the lesser of two evils. Like, I would consider myself a liberal, And so if I had a choice to vote between Democrat and Republican, I'm voting Democrat. But I'm so disgusted by her as a Democratic governor. Like, I wish I never voted for her because she's just as bad, in my opinion, as Republicans. And then when Flint happened, you have this doctor coming out, in which I have plenty of doctors that have come public with information on top of the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services study. And when it came out that, this doctor is seeing these high lead levels in Flint and everything, there's what in the city had to have an emergency manager. They declared a public health emergency. Didn't Governor Snyder declare a public health emergency after all of this shit was coming out in the news? Like, what's going on? Where's the public health emergency declaration?
Well,
I'm confused.
it actually, by the way, people don't realize in Michigan, yes, Snyder initiated the emergency managers in Detroit and Flint, but emergency managers in Michigan, which are a big problem, Democratic governors have implemented emergency managers too, including Jennifer Granholm before Snyder. Emergency managers is basically it's undemocratic. It's just nulling, making it void who you elected for, and appointing some unelected bureaucrat over them, so that the city council, the mayor, has no power. I mean, I'm not saying
that's
the
what
mayor.
we need now. Let me pick who the emergency. Let me be the emergency manager.
Well, if you were it, I'd be okay with it. If you were it, I'd be okay.
I want to be the emergency manager. Just shout out,
But also, Whitmer in particular needs to answer for this, and I will keep reaching out, because her administration helped them expand in 2021, despite knowing, I mean, the health department is under her, the environmental department is under her. I know from previous governor, they do provide briefings to the governor. So she knew about the toxic gas and the complaints. Not only did she know, the governor appoints members to the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, MEDC, which is a fancy council. It's just a list of, it's a board of donors, basically. Lawyers, real estate developers, former politicians. So your former politician, Bobby Hopewell, the former mayor, the last mayor, 5 minutes after he left office, he's appointed to this council, and this council approved a $125 million bond deal. Does she want to try out her best Rick Snyder impersonation? Well, nobody told me. I didn't know. I don't know.
I noticed something with the political donations too. My son was helping me look up some of them. Debbie Stabenow has had graphic packaging donating, and she's part of the environmental, like with the federal government, the department now. And
she's the senator for Michigan, Debbie Stabenow. Yeah.
Right. And so I noticed that she donates to Gretchen Whitmer's campaign. Gretchen Whitmer donates to her campaign, but graphic packaging's donated to Debbie Stabenow's campaign since 2011. So are these like it's just all connected.
If you look it up, they've donated to a lot more than Debbie Stabenow, including other congresspeople, senators.
Yeah, that's like Fred Upton. They always donated to him, but he didn't rerun, obviously, when this whole thing was coming out. And I was emailing him like on a regular basis, asking him for help, and he kept saying, "I'm helping with the lead pipes." Like, that's enough.
Right. Well, didn't really help. Enough.
And then Gary Peters, Sean McCann, those are both, and Julie Rogers. These are all representatives of Michigan, senators, and they were attending private meetings with graphic packaging on the odor task force, toxic gas task force, with city officials, graphic packaging officials, Eagle officials. Like, this is so crazy. Like, this is all like so shady. These are private meetings that were not open to the public. Why are you colluding with people that are poisoning entire community?
Absolutely. And for those of you might want to put in sunglasses or get some tissues, I want to play this clip too, because this shows you, talking about it, it's environmental, but this humanizes it. There are people dying. There are people dying in this community as a result of the gases they're releasing, like right now, time of day, 6 o'clock. This is just one of them that we know. I'm sure there are others that we will discover. And the graphic packaging will say, well, you have no evidence it's linked to us. Well, 2 + 2 = 4. In this case, well, we'll just play it and viewers could determine. It got worse.
No, she just had minor asthma, and it got worse as the years went on and we moved around this way.
And when did you move right here, a block away?
I moved here about 5 years ago.
And tell me, your daughter, who was 17, what happened? When did this severe asthma attack happen? And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, she had an asthma attack one night, and she couldn't be saved. the doctors don't just say she couldn't be saved. They say she was brain dead. But if I agreed to donate her organs, then they'll let her stay brain dead for 2 weeks and let us visit her. And I didn't want my daughter to suffer like that.
What year was this?
Um, gosh, my mind is just going through so much right now. 29, 2017.
27.
Yes, 2017.
So at that point, had you moved around the corner here, or you still lived a couple blocks away?
No, I still lived a couple of blocks away. I moved after my daughter died.
So a 17-year-old girl, she had minor asthma, but as you moved around closer and closer to this plant, and you could smell it where she was living, her asthma got worse and worse and worse. Did anybody in the community, did the mayor, the politicians, neighbors, was anyone talking about that they all had you right next to this plant that was emitting, from what I've been told, over 30 types of gases?
No. We done reached out to several people. We have not got a response back. It's like they don't care how we live. They don't care if we live or die. That's how I feel. We've been begging and begging and begging for them to do something about this factory. And they did something all right. They gave them all them billions of dollars to expand, to make it even worse for us over here.
Let's talk about your daughter for a little bit. I know it's painful, but did she have any other health problems, or was it really just asthma?
No, she was healthy. Only asthma.
Was she active?
Active, very active. Anybody know my daughter knows my daughter. She was very active. She played football, basketball, soccer, baseball, whatever sport it was, she played. And she loved to walk. She loved to sing. Yep, so.
And did she complain about the smell? And
Daily. She complained about the smell. She had, like I said, almost every day I had to take her to go get asthma treatment at the hospital, to the point it got so bad that the hospital had her come in 2 times a week. They had a shot flown in from California that she had to get inserted into her and stay at the hospital for like 3 hours and make sure she didn't have no kind of reaction from it, to be able to come outside. So that's how my daughter had to live.
And you know, this plant, we got there yesterday around 5 o'clock, and you could see that it's kind of, the smoke coming out of it is gray, but then at points it turns black. And today with the rain, I'm looking at it right now, and it's black.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk about certain parts of the day it smells worse than others, or the smell is thicker?
Anytime after 5, everything gets worse, because it's like everybody going home, so let's crank this up. We don't care how nobody feel. We don't care what happens to them. After 5 o'clock is when you really see the big smoke clouds in the sky, all the poison being released.
You know, you've posted video like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., you're really coughing and hacking up your lungs, and it's like right from your porch. It looks like there's like an inferno coming out of that plant.
Yes, it does. It's really bad at night. 12, 1 o'clock at night, you can't even see the sky. All you see is all the poison that they release into the sky.
Talk about your son also, he's 32. He's on life support. Can you talk about what his health was before you moved closer, and how it has gone downhill since then?
Well, before we moved here, my son's health was perfect. It wasn't nothing he didn't do. He always was healthy. He was always going and doing. And then one day we was getting ready to go to Ramona Beach, and he loved going to the beach. So I called his name, like, DeAndre, we ready, let's go. And there was no response. So I sent a guy that called me Mom. I sent him up there to see why DeAndre wasn't answering me. And he yelled down for us to call 911, say DeAndre wasn't breathing.
Her story is one of the worst ones, but like I'm telling you, when I went door to door, Similar stories. And like I said, I asked the health department, even that private meeting before the town hall, I said, why are you guys not going door to door so you can see the real asthma rates, the real COPD, emphysema, cancer? Why are you not wanting to know the real rates? Because not everyone goes to the hospital. Not everyone has health insurance. And I don't believe the deaths are reported properly because, you know, respiratory disease is also linked to COVID deaths. Like your death is, you know, 15% higher risk of dying from COVID if you have asthma or COPD or emphysema. So a lot of the asthma deaths or hospitalizations for COVID could have been because of respiratory disease. So I don't think any of the statistics are right. I think they're way worse than I've seen. And it's just sad. Deanne's life is, she's so sad all the time. Like she's just so sad. Like and all the parents, like now that this house study comes out, right? People that didn't know about this going on in the neighborhood know now. And then now it says in the house study, children are more susceptible to being gassed and getting sick. So now we have parents from schools, you know, we have a petition on change.org, like asking the superintendent to do something to protect the children of Kalamazoo schools, to protect the children from the pollution. Like everybody's wondering, like, where is the help? Like, for God's sakes. I mean, Kalamazoo is a valley.
And they don't let the children out for recess.
No. And Kalamazoo is a valley, so it traps the pollution. So it's just 10 times worse. I mean, I know that they put that in there, but it's still like people just don't understand it too. So you have to understand, like, a lot of these gases, especially hydrogen sulfide, sits low on the ground. Your kid's sitting there waiting for the bus, getting poisoned, standing outside, playing outside, getting poisoned, just walking down the street, getting poisoned. All these gases, you can't see them. You might be able to smell one or two of them, but I'm telling you, there's about 25 of these that have no smell coming out of graphic packaging, poisoning everybody.
Right.
So it's just the fact that they're not discussing it. They didn't do enough testing. I feel like everyone and a lot of people in the government knew about this for a long time, and they just were hoping that people wouldn't become aware of it. Like they would just, you're going about your daily life, it's not affecting you, or like they located these plants in low income, you know, minority communities. They've just been doing it for so long. They thought they could continue to get away with it, that people wouldn't become wise to the corruption and the capitalism and the profit over people. And, you know, they just hope that they would continue to get away with it. I mean, continue to get political donations from the polluters. You know, it's all insane. How this is a huge humanitarian crisis. Like I've even emailed like the RFK humanitarian. Like I've told every group in the United States has heard from me, has got an email from me. Every reporter has got an email from me. Like I said, CNN and ABC said that once this health study came out, they were going to report on it to help bring awareness, to help people, and crickets.
What's the next step? Obviously, the health department held the meeting with you guys last week. About 150 people showed up. We reacted.
There's another
to
one
that.
on Saturday, I think. Another town hall at Urban Alliance in Kalamazoo. I don't expect that to be any different than one we had before. They're not going to give us any answers. They have no health recommendations. And when I had that private meeting, like they're giving health recommendations, but they're not, they say they don't have the authority. This is on Eagle. And then really it's on the EPA, or, you know, I still have the civil rights complaint against Eagle for even issuing this permit to graphic packaging. That's an informal resolution. It's been an informal resolution for like a year. Like, what's the holdup? You can't come to an agreement as the EPA with your state agency that you have regulatory authority over, that you allow to enforce laws that you would normally do because you don't have enough staffing or whatever. So you have the states take over a lot, and you can't come up with an agreement fast enough to help protect the public health and the environment, which is what your job is to do as the EPA and Environmental Great Lakes and Energy. And then you have this public health department, which their job is to protect public health. So you have all these agencies that can work together to to help Kalamazoo residents, but you're just all sitting on your asses acting like you just don't give a shit. I don't get it.
I get it. Because in my opinion, the last 40 years, which we don't have hours to talk about, but there's a pattern of, particularly the Midwest has been economically, flattened. A lot of industry has been sent to other countries, including manufacturing. Basically, if graphic packaging says, "Oh, you want to find us? You want to, do X, Y, and Z?" Yeah, we'll just go to Mexico or somewhere else. Well, the 650 jobs or so that they provide, even though they're killing a lot of their employees, that's another
They
thing.
are.
High cancer rates among employees. I met
like all the poisons. I think that I heard the employees have to sign something saying that they know that they're being exposed and that they can't sue them.
I'm actually going to follow up with the. I'm going to follow up with the employee I met in the parking lot after the first day we covered it. But anyway, Michigan probably calculates, well, that would be economically devastating to Kalamazoo. I think that's what the city, the mayor, the commissioners have calculated. We played a clip last week from 2020, former city commissioner Erin Knott, who openly said, yeah, I was told to shh. She didn't say by who, but we think it was the mayor, about, challenging graphic packaging or wanting to do something about the toxic gas they're emitting because of the relationship between the city and this employer. They have donated $100,000 to local colleges. They donate to food pantries, to nonprofits. So, the government, not just in Kalamazoo, but elsewhere, you have General Motors in Flint and Detroit. So many other major auto plants or manufacturing plants are in many ways the economy. I mean, obviously there are other industries in Kalamazoo, but this is one of the big ones that they're basically looking the other way as they poison them. Actually, it's worse than looking the other way, helping them to expand. But we're going to stay on it. It doesn't, as of now, it doesn't go viral, but other than a few other outlets that are just kind of writing headlines.
If people start
updates.
sharing this on their social StatusCoup members, please share this on your social media pages. That's the only way things go viral is everyone shares.
Right. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
everyone watching this, even if you're not a member, I hope you become a member because we need more people like Jordan, like on the ground reporting these hidden stories, these cover-ups, this corruption, poisoning scams. Because obviously the national media is paid off in some way or something. I don't understand. Like they just don't care. Like, and it doesn't matter. It's like the fact that just a human being, period, whether your job, whatever your job is, your job as a journalist, your job as a government official, like you have families. Like, why would you want this to happen to your family? Wouldn't you want to like spread awareness about something this crazy going on? This is a nightmare. This is worse than any horror film I've ever even watched. This is like real life, like people getting poisoned to death, having 14 years taken off their lives. It's a slow poison. If people were dropping dead on the ground instantly, I still don't know if they would help, but it's a slow poisoning that's been happening for 100 years. And it's gotten worse with the expansion of graphic packaging starting in February 2022. Now the whole entire city. Before it was just the environmental justice, predominantly African-American environmental racism happening for all of these years. Now it's spreading over to the whole entire city because Kalamazoo is a valley. All the pollution is trapped. I've heard people living in downtown, wealthy people living downtown condos, high-rise condos. I saw a story where she only lived there a few months and got asthma. Now she's moving. There was a scientist at the town hall meeting that said she grew up in Kalamazoo, but she doesn't want to get cancer. So now she's moving. I mean, everybody's like people that can afford to move. That's the problem. And so this whole lawsuit bullshit, this is a way which if you want to continue, because sooner or later, Graphic Packaging Holding Company, which is their stock market, the stockholders, like they should have got wind of this by now. They should be dumping that stock. And people should stop buying products that Graphic Packaging produces or products from companies like Procter & Gamble and Coca-Cola and anyone else.
It's a great idea. I'm gonna look into what they produce, and we're gonna report that so our audience, if they want to, can boycott those products. It's a good idea.
Right. We have to boycott them, like, because there's nothing. I mean, we're doing everything we can, but like Graphic Packaging has a chance through this lawsuit to fix some of their stuff, relocate people until they can fix it, you know, to pay them damages for ruining their lives, you know, wrongful death. You know, there's just so many things, assault and battery. I mean, just you name it, that Graphic Packaging has done against these people, attempted manslaughter. These are all my opinions, obviously, but it's obvious to me, like, that this is all because of this Graphic Packaging and the city of Kalamazoo wastewater plant also, you know, taking their sweet time and not fixing their things, putting things off so Graphic Packaging can expand, and then giving them millions of dollars in tax breaks and land to increase poison when they've had complaints at the city too. The city has had the same amount of complaints that Eagle has had over the years.
Right.
People calling into meetings, like,
and
like
this one,
help.
this one is it's a particularly tough organizing issue because, like in Flint, for example, you could protest outside the water plant, right? Here, I would not recommend protesting outside this plant because you're all going to get sick. But I would recommend protesting.
We protest at the city hall, like,
Yeah,
we were protesting at the city hall, and like we saw people out in the windows laughing at us,
right?
Like
in the
I mean,
limos
it's like
laughing.
they didn't care. People in the city hall, like, they were laughing. We were protesting on city hall steps, like. They don't give a shit about us. Like, I don't, and a lot of these people that work at Graphic Packaging they're not Kalamazoo residents. A lot that Battle Creek got shut down, so a lot of Battle Creek people came to Kalamazoo, and then a lot of people work out of town. So it's not just, I mean, and then they'll fire. They do this. I talked to a few employees where they offered this $4,000 bonus, Graphic Packaging, for everyone to work there. And then they were firing people right before they would get the $4,000. They'd hire people like African Americans from the neighborhood, felons. They all of a sudden they said they'd start doing that, and then they're firing them before they get the bonus. There's a huge turnover rate there, and a lot of people that are retired from Graphic Packaging have cancer.
Right. Oh yeah. Thank you again for joining us. I'm sure there's going to be more updates. So. Thank you. And yes, everybody share these stories. Very, very important. By the way, I was on Breaking Points. They posted it yesterday, giving updates on this story, including that the health study was released. So people could check that out. They're posting they're posting a shit ton of videos a day. So it was yesterday it was published. So we'll post that on our social media too. But thanks, Brandy.
Thank you.
And don't go anywhere. A couple things before we go. Number one, as a reminder, tomorrow we do have a big story dropping. Pretty big. So we should be releasing that tomorrow morning. You'll get it by email. Let's just say I think it will definitely spark questions, more questions about the EPA and Norfolk Southern's claims about the controlled burn in East Palestine back in February, that burn that, frankly, residents are still dealing with. So got to do a couple fine-tuning things for the story. It'll be a written story. Lewis will also be doing a video to accompany it. We worked on it together. So that will be going out tomorrow. I'm very proud of this story. I think it was right there in the open if media wanted to dig into it. But unfortunately, so few media are staying on the East Palestine story. And as in the case of Flint, I don't stay on Flint, or we don't stay on East Palestine only because Flint or East Palestine. Yes, it's for those residents, but it's about more than Flint. It's about more than East Palestine, and it's about more than Kalamazoo. It's about what kind of country do you want to live in? You want to just live somewhere where American citizens, either through their government or corporations, can be poisoned, and then the all clear every time, oh, everything's fine, and then they just slowly die? Because if you don't think it could happen to you, ask the people of East Palestine if they didn't think it was going to happen to them. Colin, do we have that clip from Vicky? Because I think it was so powerful. That clip from Vicky from Flint talking about that we don't have any democracy, etc. We clipped this too. This is from my recent interview with Vicky Marks when I was there for the 9-year anniversary of the Flint water crisis recently. If we have it, let's play it.
You know, basically, city government's worthless.
Yeah.
They're right down there with the state and federal government, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So, but when I take, like, I'll take a quick shower like 3 times a week, and every time I get out, it's like digging. I'm so dry. But they went and replaced the mains 2 years ago on Court Street. So everybody thinks, oh, your water's fine. Nope. I says the water still has to come from the plant on Dort Highway through all those broken, crappy pipes. I says, and then run through here and run into our house. Plus, we've had 18 main breaks since they replaced them.
And I think that's really important because the media only really talked about the service lines that go from the curb into your home, but they were not replacing the mains that run underneath the street, and they have not given anybody money that I know of for interior plumbing.
Nope.
So it's like, does anyone think that the toxic water just skipped over the mains and skipped?
Yeah. But yeah, of course, they don't mention that. And I says that's because they don't have to deal with it.
Right.
The media prints what the government tells them to, or vice versa. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's no democracy in the United States. The people that own the country are the corporations. And they bought and paid for all the politicians. So nothing's going to get done. We're never going to get justice. Nobody's going to go to frickin' jail.
Unbelievable. I couldn't have said it better myself. And that's from a woman and a city that has been without clean water for over 9 years and probably is never going to get justice for all the reasons I've reported on. By the way, I'll have news on Flint soon. I put in a Freedom of Information request to the Attorney General's office of Michigan. They just denied me, but through denying me, they kind of confirmed what I was looking for. So stay tuned for that. And good point, Chris. OG Chris Garrett. Don't forget Jackson, Mississippi. I don't think things have gotten any better there. Very good point. We should also add in Jackson, Mississippi to all of this as well. So thank you. Lewis has stayed in touch with the people there, so we'll have to do a story on that soon. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I would die and go to heaven if there is one, if the important reporting we were doing got the same views as Joe Rogan gets, or name your outlet with a massive audience, because it deserves it. Not because I'm so special or Lewis is so special, but because these are Americans, even if they're not Americans and it's just immigrants, undocumented, whatever. This is life or death. I know that a lot of other topics get more eyeballs, sensationalism and reactionary shit and hot takes and who's fighting with who and all that stuff. But we're talking about life or death on a daily basis. And what Vicky said is true. The media prints what the government tells it to. If we started printing what the government told us to, we'd be doing a lot better, because that thrives on TV and the internet. But I can't live with myself if I do that. So we're going to stay on all these things. I'm excited to publish the story tomorrow. It's very thorough. So definitely make sure you're signed up to our Substack so you get it in your email box. Again, you could sign up to our Substack for free, statuscoup.substack.com. Definitely sign up. We're 21 members right now, 21 members away from our goal for May, which is 100 new members. 100 new members might not sound like anything, but honestly, this is our business model. Let me repeat, because it is a business. This is our business model. We're not in business to be rich. None of us are going to be rich off of Status Coup, but we're in business to keep the lights on, break even at the very least, if we can, on these trips. And if we can, get a little wiggle room where we're making significantly more than is our expenses. I would like to add, it took a while to find a Lewis. So it wasn't just me on the ground. I'd love to find other folks. I'd love to find people that are really great at social media that could help us get around some of these algorithms that are screwing us, so we can go viral, so we can get to new eyeballs. But it all costs money. Colin does a shit ton. I do a shit ton. Lewis is doing a lot, but we'd like to bring on more people, but we got to pay them, so they can eat and live. So if it's within your means, obviously, if you can't, we understand. But if you got $5 to $10 a month, you could sign up at $5 a month, which is 16 cents a day, or $10 a month, which is 33 cents a day. That's how we grow. It might not sound like much to you. Well, what does my $5 matter? It matters because every single person we add, it's more stable income that's coming. So we don't have to worry about YouTube, because there are going to be periods on YouTube where they're squeezing us and hiding us even more. There's times when we haven't even that we haven't cracked 100 live viewers on a live stream, even though we have 143,000 subscribers. YouTube squeezes when it wants to, throttles channels when it wants to, particularly on certain topics. And sometimes it, takes the rope off, so to speak. But as long as we have that stable revenue, it's not as big of a deal if the viewership is down. Obviously, we want the viewership to be up all the time. But as long as we have the revenue coming in from membership, that is very helpful. Let me read again. Thank you, new YouTube member Trudy signed up. She's one of the new members today. Thank you, Bruce signed up again. Lenny, Gregory, James signed up. Thank you for the great super chat. Liz, $50. Jesus Saves John 14:6. KJV is greater than Isaiah 53. I'm a Jew, so I'm not going to pretend to know that verse of the Bible or be a religious person, but I do appreciate the $50 and obviously respect anyone who's a believer in whatever you believe. And thank you so much for the generous donation. We really, really appreciate that. We need to do more cat videos for sure. All right. Thank you for watching. Again, be on the lookout tomorrow morning in your email box. It's free. Sign up for Substack, statuscoup.substack.com. And by the way, if you're a member and want to do more, you can always make a one-time donation or set a monthly donation or a weekly donation. There's different options. That's at statuscoup.com/donate if you want to do a little more. Thank you. Got another super chat. Susie, $10 sticker. Thank you, Susie Q. Appreciate it. Appreciate the super chat. And reminder to Status Coup members, if you missed the members call Friday, you can rewatch it. StatusCoupMember.com. If you're a member that signed up years ago, go to the member site on StatusCou.com. If you're a new member that signed up within the last year or so, StatusCoupMember.com. In the member section, you could watch the members call from Friday. And if you're a Patreon, Colin will be posting it to Patreon after this live stream. Thank you. We'll see you back here tomorrow.